Discover Acumatica with 247 Digitize webinar series. This session, titled Exploring Reclassification Accounting, Filters and Reversing Entries in Acumatica with 247 Digitize, promises to be an insightful exploration of these crucial aspects of Acumatica, brought to you by the experts at 247 Digitize. Before we dive into our agenda, a quick word about 247 Digitize. We are a dedicated team of experts on Acumatica committed to helping businesses harness the full potential of this powerful ERP solution. Our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and tools you need to drive efficiency, streamline operations, and maximize your ROI. I am Mazhar Ali, Director of Business Development at 247 Digitize. And on the organizing team today, we have Archana, Neha, and Sam with me. Archana is the Vice President of Bookkeeping Services at 247 Digitize. Archana comes with over 18 years of experience in handling finance and accounts across industries like construction, education, alcobev, and automobiles. She is a CPA from CPA Australia and a chartered accountant from ICA India. Neha is the Associate Vice President of Bookkeeping Practice at 247 Digitize. Neha comes with over a decade's expertise in financial reporting, external and internal audits, and global client management. Neha specializes in technical accounting and leading implementation of new accounting standards. She has led diverse teams delivering customized solutions to meet evolving needs of businesses. Sam, who is the head of marketing at 247 Digitize, is the technical expert behind this webinar. Thank you, Sam. Our valued audience, whether you are an industry expert, a business owner, or simply curious about the topic, we encourage you to participate actively by asking your questions in the chat box, and we will answer your questions at the end of this session. Today, we will discuss the following areas: reclassification, filters, preferences, and reversing entries. Over to you, Archana.
Thank you, Mazhar. Good afternoon, everyone. In today's webinar, we will first take a look at a feature that all of us on the bookkeeping team love in Acumatica, namely reclassification. It has come in handy when we needed to change only one part of a journal transaction in Acumatica. So what exactly is reclassification? Reclassification accounting refers to the process of changing the classification of certain financial items or transactions in an organization's financial statements. When you reclassify transactions, you can use this tool to find and correct transactions that are assigned to wrong accounts or classes in your books. You can reclassify transactions one by one or all at once. You can reclassify a batch on the reclassify transactions form in Acumatica when a batch has been posted to a wrong account or sub-account or branch. In the next slide, we will look at modification of selected transactions manually. Before you perform the reclassification process, you need to specify new details for each journal entry that you wish to reclassify. While reclassifying a transaction, you can also edit the transaction date and the description of the reclassification transaction. To change the required settings manually in each needed row, you modify any of the following boxes. To account or sub-account, this transaction amount will be moved from the originally specified GL account or sub-account to the account or sub-account specified in this box. To branch, the transaction will be moved to the GL account or sub-account of the branch specified in this box. On the next slide, we will look at modification of a group of transactions. The replace feature, as is represented in the following slide, is used to perform mass changing of settings in multiple rows. In the find and replace dialog box, specify the original and replacement transaction settings. Sam, you can move to the next slide. Thank you. In the following slide, you will see the load feature. Sam, if you can move to the next slide, thank you. On the load transactions, you can add new journal entries or multiple entries to the list of journal entries. In the load transactions dialog box, you can specify the criteria to load the required journal entries. In the next slide, we will look at splitting of transactions. The split of a GL transaction means the creation of a correcting transaction to move a part of the amount from one GL to another GL account, from one sub account to another, or from one company branch to another. You can split the transaction in any of these manners. If we specify a post period or currency that differs from the period or currency of the original GL transaction, then when you process the transaction, the system generates a new reclassification transaction with the new identification number that includes these journal entries. You can also delete journal entries or rows from the list of journal entries when you edit a transaction. In the reclass batch number column, each of the reclassified entries has a link to the appropriate reclassified transaction. In the following slide, we will look at the process option. This process initiates the reclassification process, which generates a reclassification batch. Let us now look at reclassification history of a transaction in the next slide. You can review the reclassification history for a transaction on the reclassification history form, or you can open this form by clicking the reclassification history button for the transaction you have selected in the GL batch if it has the type reclassification. In Acumatica, using the reclassify option allows you to change one line of a batch that needs to be fixed instead of reversing the whole batch or the whole document and re-entering it. Please keep in mind that the following types of GL transactions or general ledger transactions cannot be reclassified. If your transaction pertains to projects that have been built and allocated, or if they belong to an inactive project or are linked to project commitments, such type of GL transactions cannot be reclassified. Similarly, transactions with control accounts or those that have imported consolidation data, transactions that have been generated by using the run allocation process on the run allocations form, any currency related GL transactions, such as those based on currency translation and re-evaluation processes. And finally, transactions that have already been reclassified will not be able to be reclassified in Acumatica. Moving on, in the next part of this webinar, let us look at filters. When you work with large amounts of data, filtering is a crucial capability of the system that you can use to view and process the data. In Acumatica ERP, you can create and save filters that meet your needs. You can set up filters for various forms and reports. All Acumatica ERP filters are form specific, which means that if a filter is set up for one form, you cannot apply it to another form. The following screenshot shows the basic elements of the filtering area. On the next slide, let us look at simple filters. A simple filter is a filter that you can quickly apply to data in a table, and the filter remains applied while you are on the form. You can also sort data in a table column and turn column sorting on and off. To apply a simple filter, you click the header of the table column to open the sorting and filtering settings dialog box. To filter the column, you can choose any one of the following options. Equals, which will display records with the same value as has been specified in the value or lookup box. Does not equal, which will display records with a different value that has been specified from the value or lookup box. Contains will display records with values that includes the value in the lookup box. Starts with will show us records with a value that begins with the lookup box value. Is empty will show us records with no value in the column, and is not empty will show records with any value in the column. We will now look at date relative parameters. Today is an option that can be used to show records with the same date as today. This month will display records with the date in that current month. To make date conditions more flexible, you can use date relative parameters as it has been displayed on this slide. The following options are available in Acumatica, namely today, which will show the current date, week start, which will display the start of the current week. Similarly, the other options are week end, month start, month end, quarter start, quarter end, period start, period end, year start, and year end. To clear a simple filter, click Clear Filter in the Sorting and Filtering Settings dialog box. You can save a simple filter as a quick filter, which can be used in future sign-ins. On the next slide, we will look at quick filters. A quick filter is a reusable filter that you can apply to data in the table of an Acumatica ERP form of any of the following types, namely a generic inquiry form such as a list of records, an inquiry form, or a mass processing form. In the sorting and filtering settings dialog box, you can select one of the following options based on the content of the column. The values of the quick filter if the column has a fixed set of options. The filter condition of the quick filter if the column has an unlimited number of values. You can also save quick filters for future use. When you save a filter, the system adds to the form a tab with the filter applied. The tab will be shown on the form when you open the form in the future. The tab has the name that you specified during saving the filter. You can create quick filters for your personal use or share them with other users. You can also define a saved quick filter as a default filter by selecting the default checkbox in the filter settings dialog box, which means that each time you open the form, the filter tab is automatically opened. In the next slide, you can see a saved quick filter in the screenshot. Moving on, let us take a look at advanced filters. An advanced filter is a shared filter that a system administrator defines on the filters form for a mass processing or inquiry form. The system administrator can configure complex conditions for the advanced filter option and apply the filter by default for users. If an advanced filter has been defined for a form, you can apply it anytime. You can also use the filter settings dialog box to add an advanced filter to a form. When you save the filter, the system adds to the form a tab with the filter applied. The tab will be shown on the form when you open the form in the future. You can create advanced filters for your personal use or share them with other users. Moving on, let us look at ad hoc filters. You configure ad hoc filters on the additional sort and filters tab in the advanced filtering conditions section of the report forms to fine-tune the basic report parameters. These filters cannot be saved directly to be reused at a later time. However, you can set up and save report templates that contain the filtering and sorting settings that you use for an ad hoc filter. In the next part of this webinar, let us look at preferences. You use preferences to specify the general settings for a particular workflow, such as the processing of sale orders and other related documents that can be performed by using transactions or profiles, or the general settings of any functionality, namely general ledger, inventory, customer management, or currency management. These forms are listed under the preferences category in each workspace. The common preference settings in the GL, AP, AR, or cash management preferences are that the system will assign batch and reference numbers for different transactions and documents based on the preferences set by the users. To enable automatic posting to the general ledger, select the automatically post or release checkbox in the posting settings section. This applies to AP, AR, cash transactions, and batches. To simplify the processing of AR, AP, and cash documents, clear the whole documents or transactions on entry checkbox and set the default class ID, that is, either the vendor class or the customer class in AP and AR preferences to default in the data entry settings section of the general tab. On the next slide, let us look at general ledger preferences. In the YTD net income account box in the chart of accounts settings section, select net income. This is a required setting for a company. In the retained earnings account box, select retained earnings. This setting is also required for a company. If the restricted access to closed periods checkbox is selected on the general ledger preferences form, transactions can be posted to a closed period by only users assigned to the financial supervisor role. If this checkbox is cleared, any user can post to closed periods. Closing a period in the general ledger initiates the generation of auto-reversing batches. If the generate auto-reversing entries on period closing, checkbox is selected on the general ledger preferences form. On the next slide, we will look at cash management preferences. You will specify the cash in transit account to be used, which is mandatory in Acumatica, and the settings that make it easier for users to create entries when using the cash management functionality. In the cash in transit account box of the reconciliation settings section, select cash in transit account. This account is the only cash management setting that is required for a company. Moving on, let us look at the accounts payable preferences. You need to specify the default vendor class and other settings that will make it easier for users to create AP documents. Users can more easily match any AP document against the vendor document and avoid document duplication. You can require this reference number by selecting the require vendor reference checkbox on the accounts payable preferences form. The system generates this identifier based on the numbering sequence assigned to bills on the accounts payable preferences form. To prevent users from entering duplicate documents, you select the raise an error or duplicate vendor reference number checkbox. If you want to be able to create AP payments for bills posted to future period and dates, you can select the enable early payments checkbox on the data entry settings section on the accounts payable preferences form. Moving on, let us look at site preferences. In Acumatica, ERP time zones are specified with respect to Greenwich Mean Time (GMT). A system administrator specifies the default time zone for all system users on the site preferences form. We have more preference settings in terms of features in Acumatica, such as time and expenses, currency management, tax preferences, sale orders, purchase orders, inventory, file upload, update, email preferences, OpenID connection, and security preferences. With this, we come to the end of this section of the webinar. For the upcoming section on reversing transactions, I hand the session over to you, Neha. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana. Good afternoon, everyone. Before we dive into specifics, let's briefly discuss why reversing transactions is crucial. In any accounting systems, mistakes happen. It's essential to have mechanism in place to correct errors efficiently without compromising data integrity. Acumatica's reversing transactions is one such tool to rectify errors swiftly, ensuring accuracy and credibility of the accounting process. Now, let's talk about how to reverse a batch in Acumatica ERP. If a batch is on hold or balance status, it can be edited or deleted. However, once a batch has been released and contains incorrect details, it cannot be corrected or deleted, but it can be reversed. To reverse a GL batch, on the journal transaction form, select the desired batch and on the More menu, click Reverse. Acumatica will generate a new batch with reverse transactions, that is, debit becomes credit and credit becomes debit. While we are while you are reviewing the reversing batch of on the general transactions form, you can quickly view the original batch by clicking the number in the original batch number box in the summary area. You can reverse a batch multiple times. To view the list of the related reversing batches, you click the link in the reversing batches box of the general transactions form. On the next slide, let's delve into auto reversing batches. These batches are used for adjusting entries that need to be reversed at the beginning of the next period. They are particularly handy for period close entries like accrual adjustments or revaluing accounts in foreign currencies. At the start of the next period, Acumatica automatically creates the reversing batch. All transactions are reversed, and each reversing transaction is marked with posted status. In conclusion, mastering the art of reversing transaction is crucial for maintaining accurate financial records. Reversing transactions is a robust tool to ensure data is reliable and up to date. Thank you all. Over to you, Mesa.
Hi all. We'll allow 2 minutes to see whether our audience have any questions. So I encourage everyone to please ask your questions in the chat box, and we'll answer all your questions. And if there are too many questions which we will not be able to answer now, we'll get back to you with the answers. Sam, do you see any questions we have?
We don't have any questions right now, but as mentioned before, if anyone wishes to send a question, you can comment on this later, and we will get back to you whenever, as soon as we can.
Absolutely. We have the same link as now, and it is available to watch the recording later on the LinkedIn. And you can ask your questions in the comments, and we will get back to you with the answers. As this is the end of the session, and our certified experts can help you or your clients close monthly books accurately, saving you time and money. Let's schedule a call, and we can showcase our expertise and Acumatica client success stories. You may make a note or take a screenshot of my contact details. Let's discuss how we can streamline your bookkeeping processes and meet your goals. Looking forward to connecting with you. Thank you all for being a part of today's webinar. We look forward to see you at the next one, which is on April 24th, where we will discuss sales in Acumatica. Stay tuned to our LinkedIn page for more updates. We appreciate your participation. If you have any further questions or feedbacks, please reach out. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all.